Well, I speak fluently 4 languages. Portuguese, of course. If you don't know, I'm Portuguese. Then Spanish and French and English. And then I understand almost everything in Italian. But I don't speak Italian. I'm always confusing. The reason I don't speak Italian is because, to start speaking a new language, you need to try. And more you do it, more you try, more you learn about it. And Italian would be easy for me to speak because of the Portuguese, the French, and the Spanish. There's always a very similar word that I can get here and there. That's why I understand everything. But I don't try because every time I try, the words came in Spanish and sounds very, very ridiculous. And then I don't want to misrespect Italian people by speaking Spanish with them. Because that happens to me a lot as a Portuguese. It happens to me a lot when I meet someone and I say I'm Portuguese, and they say, oh, and they try to be friendly saying a Portuguese word, but they're actually saying a Spanish word. And that, I know that for most Portuguese people, even I don't care, but it's kind of disrespectful. And I'm always afraid of doing that in Italian. That's why I don't speak Italian. And then I'm always learning. I know a few words in lots of different languages, and I understand sometimes here and there a word in German or in Greek as well. But far from understanding or speaking those 2 languages, German and Greek is very difficult. I learned the alphabet in Greek, so I can read without knowing what I'm reading. But I know the alphabet, that is very interesting, and I would love to speak Greek, because Greek, all the same way all the IT words are in English now, because when those things are created, they are created for someone or for some company where the language is English. So we call an email in every language in the world. And what happened is, in the beginning of civilization, lots of words were created, words that we use in Portuguese, English, French on a daily basis, were created here in Greece. So, and that's the reason I would love to speak Greek, because and as a writer would be very, very interesting, because the origin of so many words we use, the origin is here. And then, like, when we say words like, when they're remembering now, words like hypocrisy comes from the Greek, and for us, like, Portuguese is almost the same, is hipocrisia, and for us, it's like the word doesn't means a concept that we learn what that word means. But in Greek, the word actually means something. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, there's in the word itself, there's a meaning, and not the concept that we know that word means. That's why I would love to learn Greek. And speaking 4 languages helps a lot. Of course, it does. But most of all, is English everywhere. then in the Western Europe, all the Western Europe countries, it's very easy. There are of course countries where it's easier to find people who speak English than others, but in almost all of them it's very easy. People, at least, they understand. So communication, and young people, almost everyone in all those countries speak English. In all Western countries but France, Spain and Italy. There are the only three Western countries where it's more difficult to find people who speak English. But then Spain, I speak Spanish. France, I speak French. And Italy, I understand. What happens in Italy? Italy is very interesting. Besides of being very beautiful and all of that, but the people. Italy is a country where people from the north and the south are completely different. People from the north, they are more like Central Europeans, and people from the south, they are Mediterraneans, like me, like Portuguese people, Maltese people, Greek people, Spanish people. And with people in the south, it's much more easier to communicate, because understanding Italian, I speak Portuguese with them, and if they don't understand, I'll try to find a word and a few words I know in Italian, and then they are always very open to communicate. Some people say that for speaking four languages is a lot. It isn't. I would like to speak much more. It happens to me that I don't know how to communicate with people, and that is so important. To understand the culture of a country, to understand people, to understand the world, to understand so many things, we need to communicate. That is a big problem we have, like in European Union. I always try not to be political in the vlogs, but it's gonna be a little bit. In European Union, where so many things were done to put us together, the most important were never tried. That was communication. We start a house from the roof with the euro and the money, economics, to make things work in a certain way when they should go in a different way. That is making people together. And more languages we speak, and easier will be to communicate to each other and to understand each other, and understand why we don't agree in some things. And when we understand that, sometimes we see that we are wrong the way we see things, and that opens the mind a lot. And understanding other cultures and others' views or point of views are always a very important way of opening our mind and understand much better the world we live, and face all the barriers we find. So this is also a very interesting question. I don't feel lonely traveling, and when I go to see a place, like this question in particular comes from the town of Bologna in north of Italy. I remember when I was there, I was waiting to go up to the tower, a very beautiful tower, and waiting for it, I met a very nice couple. He is from the United States, and she's Italian. And we wait for half an hour, so always talking to each other. It was very interesting. Sometimes when you're with someone else, you don't do that. So I always being alone, traveling alone, when I go to some place to visit something, makes me much more open. So instead of just doing what I'm doing there, if I have half opportunity to speak to someone, I'll do it. And that's very interesting. I wasn't always like this. I was before I start traveling, I was the other way. I was very close to myself. Would be very almost impossible to speak to a stranger. And what is interesting is there's always, most of the time, very good surprises. One thing that I learned traveling is there are bad and good people everywhere in the world. There are stupid people everywhere, and also everywhere there are very interesting people. Always. And it's always like that everywhere. Very friendly people, very stupid people, bad, good people. But most of the people in the world, they are very good. Human nature, most of us have a very good heart. And traveling and meeting strangers all the time gives me hope, because I understand that most of the people in the world are good people. And that's why that makes me more and more be open to talk with strangers. But then you need to live this way and be alone all the time. You need to be very well with yourself. And I enjoy living with myself. Even if sometimes, and happens quite often, I need to socialize. That happens. I need to go out and meet people and talk to them. Now in Europe, it's getting kind of easy because I have friends in almost every country. So here where I am, I go out and have drinks with friends, or have a coffee or stuff. So here I'm not alone. And the good thing is I'm also alone and enjoying time with myself at the same time. The only thing that I miss sometimes is someone to share things. You know, when you see something that is amazing, to share, talk about it. Then when you're with someone else, we cannot see everything all the time. So the other people will help us to notice something that we're missing, and that I don't have. And another thing that is interesting about being alone is I cannot share what I lived, what is behind. So instead of laughing with someone for something that happened, I have no choice than try to make something happen that will make me laugh. So that makes me more turn to the present than living from the past. And I felt very lonely living in an apartment, having a regular job, and knowing lots of people when I was living in Switzerland. And I never felt lonely living in my van. I'm really being honest with you. I used to feel lonely many times having a normal life, because I wasn't living something that I wanted, a kind of life that fits my way of being, and now I am. Always find things to do, always find things to enjoy time. And then I think we all are a little bit crazy when we're alone. Everybody when driving sings, or in the shower, or make jokes to ourselves, to himself. I think I do that all the time, so I'm always joking with myself and laughing from myself, from the stupid things I do. So I do a lot of stupid things, and then I joke with myself, and sometimes I put myself in very stupid situations, and that I get angry at myself. And it's kind of funny then I'm used to it. So, well, I use Final Cut Pro 10, and I use it because it was easy to start with after having iMovie, and because I learn everything by myself, by trying things and by doing mistakes. So all the other softwares, they are very, very difficult to start being the way I am. You need to read and do research to know how to start to do things, I think. And because having iMovie, Final Cut was easy to start, and is more than enough for me for the things I do. And I like it very much, works very well. And I think I'm far from reaching the limit of that software. So I don't think I will need another one. This one works good for me. I don't get sick very, very often. Actually, I don't remember the last time I got sick. I get hurt sometimes, but sick, I don't remember. I don't think I was sick ever. Really sick. I don't think so. But since I started living in my van, and I have some back issues, and when I was young, I did a lot of motorcycle, off-road, endurance and stuff like that. That's not good for the back. And like once or twice a year, I have a few days that I'm not good in my back. And happened very recently, where actually I've been for more than a week with pain. And when that happens, I just go to a place where I can stay for a week without worrying much, and where things are closed, like buy food and stuff like that, and I just stay there till I'm well. A year ago I was in Athens and I hurt my eye, and that was really bad. Actually opened a wound in the eye. So for a day I was trying to see if he would get better. After a day I realized I needed to go to the doctor. And I went to this eye clinic. And that was the worst week of my van life. And even worse because it was the eye. I couldn't drive. So I couldn't go anywhere. And I was in Athens, where it's crazy if you are driving, even a small car. So I had to call a cab to go to the eye clinic. Then I stayed for 3 or 4 days, and it was more than 40 degrees. I couldn't. It was a very, very bad week. Like I say there's a video where I say this sentence: being sick when you're in a van is like 100 times worse than when you're sick at home. Because the van is a lot about moving. If you cannot move, and when I had this thing on my eye, I couldn't drive. It was very, very bad. And then after 3 or 4 days, because in the beginning I couldn't even see in both of eyes. One was hurt, but the other one I couldn't. I don't know if it is the brain that is used to have both eyes, but I couldn't drive. I didn't have a panoramic view, and I didn't have the perception of distance, so I couldn't drive. And after 3 or 4 days, I start to get a little bit used to see only in one eye. So I drove away from Athens. I drove for 3 or 4 hours, and I took all day to do those 3 or 4 hours of driving, like stopping every 20, 30, 40 kilometers and driving very slowly to go to a place not far from here, actually, that I knew before, and I stayed there till my eye got well. Took like 2 weeks to be perfect well. So that's not something good to live when living in a van.